Thank you. A special word of gratitude to Jonathan Davis. Now he disappeared behind the bright lights. There he is, who I know from many years. To Boaz Ganor, to Alex Pack, to the entire staff of ICT, and to Reichman University for inviting me to represent the Office of the U.S. Special Envoy to come to this important conference. Anachnu Asirei Todah. This is a very influential gathering, and it's a particular pleasure for me to come back to this campus, which I've visited for nearly 20 years, each time going away more enlightened and more inspired. But as I walk in today, the images, the empty seats that are reserved, the personal testimonies that you're hearing, the testimonies of victims and of family members, these are stark reminders of the brutality and the terror of October 7th. There can be no compromise with anti-Semitism. Secretary Rubio said to a major international conference convened by Foreign Minister Saar in Jerusalem in May, there can be no compromise with anti-Semitism. Lo mitpashrim. This uncompromising message came just days after two Israeli embassy staff were murdered outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. As Secretary Rubio said at the time, Yaron Lasensky and Sarah Milgram's horrific murders remind us why, quote, the persistent evil of anti-Semitism cannot be tolerated. Again, I quote, there can be no nuance to hatred, he declared. Anti-Semitism is an ancient poison that continues to manifest in new and dangerous ways. Its sources are varied, complex, sometimes hidden, and proliferating. Here at this forum, convened by the International Institute for Counter-Terrorism, I would like to spotlight one of its most alarming forms, when anti-Semitism is transnational and when it's fueled by foreign malign actors. In countries where Jewish communities feel the most vulnerable, community leaders regularly report to our office growing suspicions that foreign actors are fomenting hatred, and in some cases, we know they are promoting local acts of violence and terror. Look no further than Iran's use of proxies to plan and commit anti-Semitic attacks in Australia. It was just days ago, on October 26th, the Australian government announced, and here I will quote from their announcement, enough credible intelligence has now been gathered to conclude that the Iranian government was the source of at least 2 plots and attacks against local Jewish community sites. The Australian government also believes, they have announced, that it is likely Iran directed other attacks as well. The Iranian plots and attacks in Australia are just one example of an alarming trend. Today we are witnessing a dangerous surge of transnational anti-Semitism. Around the world, foreign malign actors are increasingly directing anti-Semitic incidents, and in some cases, acts of anti-Semitic terror across borders. And there's often no return address. Sometimes the source is deliberately masked. Still, this wave of transnational anti-Semitism threatens and attacks more than just Jews and Jewish communities. It aims to sow societal division, to undermine faith in public institutions, and to erode the rule of law. As the Australian case demonstrates, it may be Jewish communities that are most directly targeted, but all of society is at risk. The United States will not stand idly by as foreign malign actors threaten Jewish communities and undermine sovereignty and national security. On September 12th, just a few days ago, the United States joined other members and associate members of the G7 Rapid Response Mechanism in condemning Iran's attacks, which were designed, and I quote, to divide societies and to intimidate Jewish communities. The statement went on to say, we will continue to safeguard our sovereignty, keep our community safe, and defend individuals from the overreach of foreign governments. No compromise. Lo mitpashrim. In confronting this dangerous and deadly form of contemporary anti-Semitism, the United States is leading by example. From designating the Houthis as a foreign terrorist organization to intensifying pressure on the Iranian regime, the United States is taking decisive action against transnational anti-Semitism, and we call on other countries and other governments to follow suit. This commitment extends to travel and to visitors to the United States. As Secretary Rubio stated in March, the United States, quote, will have zero tolerance for foreign visitors who support terrorists. New visa vetting procedures are being refined, and universities, which are designated sponsors, must now report, and I quote, must now report proscribed anti-Semitic actions involving exchange visitors under our revised incident reporting rubric. No compromise. Lo mitpashrim. The Office of the U.S. Special Envoy and our many partner offices at the Department of State have stepped up how we utilize intelligence resources, both to better understand the sources of anti-Semitic terrorism and to improve our response. Some of our like-minded counterparts want to do the same. Here in Israel, later this week, the United States and the Israeli government will engage in a high-level dialogue on counterterrorism. And this agenda that I came to speak to you about today, this agenda will be part of those discussions. And we continue to call on other allies and partners to intensify their own efforts. When it comes from malign actors, terrorist organizations, or even multilateral bodies, the United States is committed to fighting anti-Semitism in all of its pernicious forms. The U.S. continues to take decisive steps to fight the pervasive anti-Semitism that plagues the UN system. In July, the U.S. sanctioned UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese, who has waged political and economic warfare on the United States and Israel, including by threatening major American companies critical to the global economy, using lawfare at the ICC and at the ICJ. She has also been an endless source of virulent anti-Semitism, and I quote, expressed support for terrorism, as Secretary Rubio has said, and we continue to demand her removal as Special Rapporteur. No compromise. Lo mitpashrim. The broader global policy agenda to counter anti-Semitism most certainly benefits from expanded cooperation. Working closely with Israel and other leaders in the field, and here I'll borrow a phrase from an MFA counterpart in Jerusalem, we have established a global coalition against anti-Semitism. As Secretary Rubio said in March, on the global stage, America leads by example. We promote the IHRA definition as a cornerstone of the U.S. global guidelines for countering anti-Semitism. The global guidelines provide structure and guidance for effective policymaking and have garnered widespread support from Jewish communities. Most recently, just this past July, we announced that Switzerland and Panama have joined a growing list of dozens of countries and regional bodies that have endorsed the guidelines. There are few roles more central for governments. You will read in the section of the guidelines that focuses on protection, quote, than the security and welfare of their populations. Together, biyachad, we can uncover sources, identify manifestations, generate solutions that protect Jewish communities and that make our societies more secure and more resilient for all. As Secretary Rubio said in May, I pray for the day when the entire world will recognize the futility of anti-Semitism. This scourge poses too grave a threat for us to remain silent. The U.S. is taking decisive action in this fight, for when it comes to the safety and security of Jewish communities globally, there can be no compromise. Lo mitpashrim. Thank you.